Thank you. Uh, Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming out here. I can see some of you rolling back in, and I'm happy to be here and take on the next session with you. So I'm going to share with you what we call our customer approach. My name is Vijay Sundaram. I'm part of the leadership team at Zoho, and uh, I've been doing some sort of a keynote now for several years for Zoho events, sometimes across the world. And after looking at Raju's presentation that went just before me, I think my job is going to go. So, so I think next year we're going to have a bot or whatever he wants to call it, an agent, not a bot, right? That's going to be here talking, and I'm going to be sitting at the back eating my donut. Okay, so this is the last time you get to see me, so applaud well at the end of it. Okay, let's move along. A lot of the next 2 days, you're going to learn a lot about our products. You're going to learn a lot about our people. You're going to mingle with our people. You're going to learn from other customers. You're going to meet some of our partners. That's what's ahead of you, especially for those of you who've come here for the first time. You're going to get more products into you than maybe you're even ready for. So what I'm going to do is depart from that. So I'm one of the last points here where you're going to not hear about the product, but hear something a bit more about our philosophy or our approach to why and how we do things. So I'm going to start with what people tend to know about Zoho. Some of you know this, but I'll start with that and then move forward from there. So most of you know that we've been around. I'm going to share a little snapshot with you. And some of you know this, but I'll go left to right. We've been around for almost 3 decades. That's about 100 years in the insurance business, right? So it's a long time, 3 decades. We've got almost 18,000 employees across the world. We keep telling you every year how many apps we add. Shiva came in just before me and threw 4 more into the pile. So I never put the number there. I just say something plus. All right. And we're in almost any country you can think of. We operate all across the world. We have 120 million individual users of our product. We are a freemium company, so that includes free users as well as people who pay for our services. We have almost 1 million companies or customers who do business with us. That's an enviable number. I want to thank you all for it because that's what keeps us alive and keeps us in business. Give yourselves a hand of applause. We've done all this with a business model that's somewhat different from most companies. We're private, and I think a number of you know that. That's intentional. We could have chosen to be public many, many years ago. And we chose to be private because it allows us to formulate our own destiny, to decide where we want to make our investments. And you'll see some of that in the rest of my story and why we can do that. While we are a private company, we also believe that we have a public responsibility. I won't go into this presentation, but there are a lot of things we do in the places we serve, the constituencies we serve, the places we have offices that show some of our social character. In fact, for many of us, that's what keeps us here because there's more meaning to it than just building products and delivering it to our customers. All right, so that's about us. You know about products, all our products. We keep building them, a lot of them. I know you're going to see so many different tracks over the course of the next couple of days. So I'm going to simplify or generalize how you see everything that we do. Maybe some of you can use this as a way to understand what we do. Fundamentally, we're here to serve your business. And we're looking at the areas that are common to every business. So the way we look at it, there are 3 things that almost every business does. So starting from the left, the first thing you do is you have to serve your customers. Just as you're the reason for our existence, the same thing applies to you. So everything to do with serving your customers, prospecting them, acquiring them, maintaining them, keeping them happy, all of that is part of that, right? So that's one big business area for you where we have our products and capabilities. The second piece is what most of us consider our most valuable asset, that is our employees. We need to make them productive. We need to get them the right tools. We need to bring them the information, the analytical tools, everything that they need to collaborate, to communicate, to work, to generate what they do. So that's that middle piece, enabling your employees. You can see that every business does that. The third piece is, of course, running the operations. And that's a big piece. That's everything else that happens outside of the first two. So it is managing your assets, your financial assets, managing your books, managing your people, your recruitment of your people, performance management of your people, all the operations you do, inventory management, all of that kind of stuff, everything to do with your operations. So that broadly breaks down into HR related stuff, finance related stuff, so management of people assets, management of monetary assets, and then operational stuff, which is process automation. So this is the panoply of things that Zoho tries to do. So try to put it together in one picture. I have one slide on each, so you can see how this sort of plays out a bit. So let's start with the left. Serving customers, you see the purpose on the top. I've talked about that already. I've put together a sum of the products, not everything that we have, in each of these categories, so they're representative of what we're trying to do. So marketing, we have a marketing automation suite. The focus of that is prospecting, is lead generation, all of that stuff, right? Your sales is CRM, that's the flagship product, and you can see that there and other things alongside it. So this whole slide is about that first piece, acquiring your customers and keeping them. So you see our capabilities aligned against those functions. You can acquire any of these products individually, or they're available as well-priced, well-put-together suites, which is at the bottom of the slide. So that's how you engage with us in this area, if that's what you chose to transform in your business. The second piece is empowering employees. So once again, you can see the objectives on the top, and you can see what we're trying to do. We're trying to enable people to communicate better, to collaborate better, to share ideas better, to generate ideas better, to receive insights from the business better, and to react to all of them in ways that their other employees know how they should coordinate. So this is actually the engine of any company. If you look, as most of you know, we use all our own products. In fact, I should say it the other way. We don't use anybody else's products, right? So you won't find anything we do is built by Zoho. I would say this set of products is probably the most important to us, because we are a knowledge-intensive company, and the way we collaborate and work together is transformational to how we deliver products to you. So most of the things that drive us and drive our innovation come from this suite of products. Once again, you can see they're presented in unified suites. You're going to acquire them separately. More on that later. The last piece is, of course, running operations. Big area here. There's human resources stuff, there's finance stuff. I touched upon these three. Bunch of products in this area. Shiva was here earlier, so he saves me a couple of minutes now trying to describe what he's been doing for 17 years. So I will just share with you the suites at the bottom, the unified suites that are other ways for you to access these products and capabilities. Okay, so on top of this, what else have we done? We've done one other thing. It's very clear to us that our products are built through the imagination of our minds and the experience of our customers coming back to us. But we know that a lot of these things need to be customized because every business is different. So there's a lot of energy in our business that goes into driving this kind of customization. There are 3 or 4 different ways. The stuff on the left is sort of configuration within the applications themselves, adding a module here, changing a workflow, all those kind of stuff within the application itself. The middle piece is integrating with other things that you work with, third parties, extensions built by others, information coming from other applications. We recognize that you don't live in a universe that's determined solely by Zoho. So that's that middle piece on how you can customize things the way you want it with the applications and capabilities that you need. The last part, of course, is completely custom stuff. And this is where the low code comes in, the no code comes in. And you saw from what Raju did this morning, even that is getting easier. I mean, think of no code getting easier because you're telling an agent to do no code. So where is the bull getting to, right? So we've got that other set of capabilities which allows you to completely build things, applications, applets that might not be available off the shelf. You might be running a business that's in logistics and you have a very different inbound logistics model that's not captured in some off-the-shelf software. How do you model it? Use a low-code application, you connect with all the applications that Zoho already provides, so the data is there, the information is there. You write your application yourself using low-code. You integrate it into the Zoho suite, so you have the same single sign-on and everything that works. You run analytics on the top, you're done. That's the vision of that third part. So these are the 4 parts of our products. You already know this. So I've talked about us, I've talked about our products, and now I want to just spend the rest of my presentation here telling you about our customer approach and how we look at this. So the first part of our customer approach has to start with the assumptions that we make about you, right? We're building products for you. What are our assumptions of you? All right, so I'm going to go on a limb here and make certain assumptions about the types of people you are. Okay, so let's start. Most of our customers and most of you in this room are aspirational. You want to be the next best thing. Many of you tend to be younger companies. Many of our customers tend to be younger companies. By the way, a lot of these traits I describe apply even to us. So you want to punch above your weight. You want to achieve what leaders in your industry have achieved after a longer period of time. Many of our customers fit this mode. They have those kinds of expectations from their software vendor as well. The second piece is innovation. A lot of the customers we work with are innovators. Your business often depends, like us, on innovation. Your differentiation comes from your innovation. Oftentimes, you're a company that's sandwiched between startups that are attacking you from one side or new companies that have just been formed with perhaps newer technologies, approaches, companies that have been stable around for a longer period of time, and you're in the middle. How do you actually work that? Through innovation. A lot of times, and this happens to us too, your company grows fast, and then it suddenly hits a growth plateau. That happens to a lot of companies. And the way you punch through that plateau is through repeated innovation. We've learned that. We've had to reinvent ourselves many times. So the next piece is complexity. Business simply becomes more and more complex. Mid-sized companies today, even small companies today, are as complex as larger companies used to be. And let me explain what that means. You have business processes that are very specific, that are tailored, that are not generalized, that are specialized for different customers. You often work across different geographies. You work with different customer segments. Even small companies today deliver products to broad market segments. Often you work across geographies. You deal with multiple currencies. You're dealing with explosions of data. You're dealing with different models of work, hybrid work. You're dealing with artificial intelligence and figuring out how that should work into your business. Your businesses are complex. So oftentimes you need the software that can address that complexity, yet make it available to you. Yet make it possible for you to gain the automation that you get without getting lost in the complexity. So that goes back into thinking for us, thinking about how we have to address your needs. Youthful. A lot of you look young. I look young too, but I do a good job of hiding it. So many of you are with companies that have young people too. And like us, what happens is a lot of your companies are bottom up driven. So you have people making decisions at lower levels in the company. You are not, young, youthful companies tend not to be constrained by technology. They want the technology to work for them, not the other way around. Younger companies are not constrained by what they call legacy technologies, technologies that have been around for a long time. They used to say that if you've heard this adage, right? They used to say that if nobody ever got fired for bringing in Salesforce, or if you are my vintage, IBM, right? So that's what they used to say. Now, what do they say? You will get fired if you don't find the best software vendor for your company. It's flipped around completely, right? So that's the nature of youthfulness that's come into companies today. People don't accept norms. They want the stuff that to work today. They're used to consumer-based technologies. They're used to mobile-based technologies, and that's the expectation of their software vendor. Demanding. You can see how this leads to that. Companies that are demanding, yes. Every one of our customers are demanding. I can tell you that. So we have very demanding customers. You have complex business processes. You want us to solve it. You listen to the calls that come to our support center. They want things solved exactly how their business works, right? That's what we hear all the time. You want complex software, but you can't afford that it's complicated. So you want it easy to use, you want it simple to use, but it should have a complex stuff. You're demanding. We understand that we are the same way. I am the same way. I'm demanding of our own engineers to build stuff that is complex, but something that's easier for me to use. So that's the nature of it. We identify with that. In other words, I would say you want to have your cake and yeah. So you know what you want. So you are demanding. So that's another aspect that we see. So I'm going to close with this one. So this is the value. You look for value. And you see in a number of ways. You look for it in pricing, you look for it in software affordability, you look for it across the life cycle of what you do, whether you acquire our products and what happens after that, the maintenance, the support. You look for more capabilities at a given price. And that's not lost on us. You saw what Raju talked about, how we price our AI. So we know you look for value, and we know it's beyond price. We know it's in capabilities, it's in the size of the problem we can solve for your business, and in the stuff that we keep adding year after year. So you feel that you're not stagnant with your investment in us. So that's what we look for value. So how do these assumptions that we make about you influence what we do and how we approach building our products? So I've looked at everything that we do, and I've tried to tighten this down into a few things that will give you a sense of how we approach it. I will also tell you up front that some of this is idealistic. We're not always able to do everything that I'm going to tell you that we do. Sometimes we fail at it, right? And it's our job to be candid and honest about it. But it gives you a sense still of how we approach it and what we try to do. So you can hold us to that standard that we set for ourselves. So the first piece is the notion of building sophisticated products. And I'll talk about that in a minute. These are products that not just address your needs today, but they try to anticipate what it'll be tomorrow. So in a sense, our job is often always, when working with customers like you, with all the traits that I just described, our job is often trying to strike that puck where you're going to go, not often where you already are. So you can see from what we're doing with AI, how we tend to see where you will go, and therefore what we need to do now to anticipate that. So I'll touch on three parts of this, of what I mean by sophisticated products. The first one is a notion of a platform. I know you hear this word platform, it's been bandied about by every vendor. And even despite this glare of these lights, I can see some of you rolling your eyes. So I'm going to tell you two of you to just roll it back. Okay? So, yeah. So what we're doing here is this is about customized software. And I'm going to, we have an entire presentation on this later today. It's done by one of my colleagues, Anand, and he's going to have these beautiful pictures and stuff you're going to have to deal with my hands. Okay? I'm half Italian. So what we're going to do is the way we describe our platform is we're trying to do three things here. We're trying to provide the right fit. We're trying to anticipate complexity, deal with complexity, and we're trying to handle growth and needs that may come up into the future. That's what we're trying to do. And to do that, we've come up with the concept of a platform that I'll discuss in a minute. Two aspects to it. The first is the notion of a domain. So domain is basically a business area. So think of it really looks, the notion of a domain came from how we see our customers using our products. So people want to digitally transform their business. So they pick an area of the business that makes sense for them. Maybe it's their customer facing stuff. Maybe it's their financial operations. Maybe it is IT and services that they're trying to manage. And we realize many of our customers work in that area, work through, build a level of automation and capabilities, and then realize how to bring it to other areas. So we've created these notion of domains, about 5 or 6 of them, that correspond to the ways companies tend to build their transformational strategies. Employee enablement is an example. Customer enablement is another. So we built these several domains. Now, what's these platforms within these domains? So what does a platform do? You can think of it as 3 layers. At the base layer is the core capabilities that do, and I'll make it come alive through an example. So take the case of CRM. So what's at the core of a CRM? You all know that, so I won't repeat it, but I'll give you I'll summarize. It's about managing your leads. It's about managing a sales process, tracking your accounts, etc. All those things. So that's the core. What's the stuff that comes above the second layer? These are needs you can anticipate. So what are things you can anticipate with the CRM? You know that you're going to need to be integrated to other systems. You're going to pull data from other systems. You know, for example, you're going to need all kinds of reporting. So reporting is an anticipated area. You know that you're going to customize your workflows because you're going to be different. Your business is different. So all of the platform has to allow you to do all those kinds of things above that core set. Those are anticipated needs. What about things you cannot anticipate? How does a platform allow you to do that? So that's the piece where you have all the kinds of things you'll see in the presentation later, which are things like scripting, things like widgets, stuff that's low-code capabilities, the kinds of things that are pre-built and made available so you can tailor that to build the specific needs that you might yourself not know that your business needs in a few years. So the platform is set up to anticipate those needs. So those are the 3 layers we envision it. You'll see some of the details and what we share with you later in the session. So that's the first part. The platform approach is taken us several years to come to this, and it's come bottom up from everything we've done and from learning how our customers engage with technology. The second piece is integrated capabilities. This is stuff that sits outside the business process flow. So if you're dealing with, say, sales, you're dealing with the sales business process flow. If you're dealing with accounting, that's another process flow. This is stuff that sits across that. So things, for example, communication tools. How many times have you been inside an email and then you're talking to 3 people in an email and you want to have a meeting with the 3 of them right there, or a chat with the 3 of them because it quickens your ability to get something done. So that's the messaging capability. Is it built into your CRM? Is it built into your email? Similarly, video conferencing. A lot of times you might be in your word processor and you want to do video conferencing right there because you're collaborating on something and you want to talk to 2 people and clarify something. Where does that come in? So these are all tools, and business intelligence is another example. This is stuff that works across applications, across business silos. You saw a good example from Raju earlier this morning. He was sitting in his email, and then you saw how he pulled all this kind of stuff from the CRM, from analytics, right from within his email. That's integrated capabilities. So there are 2 things that are needed to do that. One is the ability to integrate data across different things the organization uses. The second thing is to have the capability. Not every provider who provides CRM has video conferencing capability. So what happens when you need that? You got to buy it. You got to pay it for Zoom. So in a sense, the way we actually enable this, the sophisticated applications is bringing this level of integration and including it with what you do with our products. Third example, we talked about complexity. This is like it's like I mentioned earlier, right? This is a tug of war. You want complex applications, but you want them to be simple, right? And that's often at counter purposes, but that's what we try to do. Software has proliferated over time. So, the average small business company uses 172 apps. You can see it on the screen. We probably use over 1,000. So imagine what it takes when you manage all of this, right? You have to sign into them differently. You have to log into them differently, even though there are single sign-on software and stuff like that. You're inundated with features. And when you have so many applications, you can think of everything that happens. It's not just using the app, the procurement of the app, the contracting of the app, the renewal process, the upgrade process, the invoicing, training your users, onboarding people. All of that proliferates. Very soon, your organization is spending more time in managing the automation rather than gaining from the automation. So that's what one of the things we're trying to do is reduce that level of complexity. Some of that comes from our suites. Some of that comes from some of the integration. Like I said, we're not perfect at this. We're still working in several of these areas. We still have rough edges, but that's where we're headed. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to not be feature rich, but feature clear. So you know how to use the products. And I know that's counterintuitive to a product company. I've spoken to a lot of our product leaders, and this is often a hard concept to get across because we're always trying to put more things for you. We're trying to deal with that complexity I talked about. Okay. So in addition to that, we have to do other things. I talked about the three areas. In addition to that, you expect all these things from us. You expect to scale, you expect to customize, you expect extensibility, you expect us to manage your complexity, data security, privacy. This is table stakes. So this stuff, when I talk about sophisticated applications, we just assume we have to do all this stuff. Nothing special about this. You expect us to do this. So surpassing reference at this point. So the second issue of what we do is we want to make it easy to do business with us. Oftentimes, and I've been on the other side of the coin, oftentimes dealing with a software vendor, especially if you're a mid-sized company with complex needs, is like visiting a dentist. Like you got to do it, right? Neither of you like it. Both of you are smiling though. Right? And when you go to the dentist, it's got to be done. So it's like that. You have this thing, people, there's a lack of transparency, there's rigidity. People want to do it their way. You have to contract with them in a certain way. So a lot of our focus is to remove that opaqueness that comes with the experience of dealing with software vendors. So it's to bring that transparency, to bring to see pricing. What is it you get? Don't put something on your website which says call for price, because that's a signal that tells you that I'm going to figure out what you are and give you a number that suits you, right? All our prices are on our website. And or if you have an add-on, tell us what it is. Don't obfuscate what it's going to cost me to engage with you. So we try to do that. Again, like I said, in some places you're going to find line items and all this stuff because of that complexity, but this is what we try to do. Our salespeople try not to be pushy. They try not to be over optimistic. Again, like I said, you will find some people who quite don't fit that bill, but that's our general corporate mentality. We would rather undersell and overimpress than go the other way around. The other thing is I talked about being private, and this is where it kicks in. We are not about profit maximization. It's not lost on us that we need to be profitable. We've been profitable every single one of those 29 years, believe it or not. We've put away sufficient cash to do those fancy LLMs that Raju was talking about. So we actually have sufficient cash flow to run this business from day one, and we're generating a lot of it. But our focus is not driving maximum profitability at any time, because we don't respond to a third party. We're not answerable to a stock market or a bunch of abstract shareholders. We put our customers in front of our shareholders because that's what we think is the right way to do business. That allows us to have that openness and that transparency. Flexibility and choice. We understand that customers often get straitjacketed into things, into contracts, into products, into business terms. So these are some of the things that we try to understand. What are your constraints? And how do we bring that to you? Flexibility in many ways. Packaging. You can buy our products singly. You can buy them in bundles. You can mix it. You can change your mind. You can enter into contracts. You can change your terms in the middle of a contract. You can switch a product. And we don't say, oh, it's 3 years or the pricing automatically changes this way after 4 years. We don't play those games. So there's a lot of flexibility. There's purchasing flexibility. There's deployment. You can decide which parts of the application to use. How do you deploy them? How you provision them. You can start with a smaller set of users and then bring into a larger base. It's all about flexibility. So you are not daunted by dealing with complexity coming from the vendor, and you realize that they're not running against their own agenda because there's actually flexibility for your business. That is again what we try to do. Last issue is a focus. I call it a maniacal focus. We certainly as a company have a maniacal focus on value. Value that even we get from people we work with, and certainly the value that we bring to you. Pricing is, of course, at the top of it. It is making our software has always been affordable, and it's flexible. We talked about that a few minutes ago. We keep adding capabilities. We keep adding new things. You buy a suite from us, suddenly there are new products in the suite. The price doesn't change. We had Shiva was here before the break. He talked about what's getting into the finance suite. We talked about AI being built into our products, new capabilities coming into it. So the value comes not just from the price you see on that website, it comes from the attitude of the vendor and how they build things going forward and how they build that into the pricing structure they already have. And we have a very clear philosophy on that. Tie that back to the notion of not trying to maximize profit, because we know we're making enough money, we have a long-term play. Bundling. Talked about this. A lot of value comes from bundling. Sometimes we do things that seem almost absurd. Zoho One. Okay, Zoho One is priced at, if you use it for your entire company, you can see how it's priced. Try doing anything similar to that in the industry. It's a bundling, it's an intentional strategy to provide immense value if you actually put your faith in us and you drive it across your company. And we feel that that's the kind of reward you need to get. So bundling is a big part of it. Our architecture that allows you to grow with it is part of it. Other capabilities outside the product, capabilities like onboarding, capabilities like training, we try to bring that, sometimes price them as part of what we do. Support, we also have price support options to basically bring more and more value at that price. So in a sense, what we're looking at is the total cost of ownership, not just what you pay, it's everything that you see. When you look at these cost of ownership, finance people, they would often, these are metrics mongers, right? So they will have terms like ROI and ROIC and NPV and what else? IRR and all of these things, right? For us, we see value very differently. What we see across the entire life cycle, it doesn't show up in some number which a finance person is trying to force fit into a spreadsheet. It's more like what you see across the engagement of the product and over its life cycle. It's implementation costs. There's a good study that's put out by a third-party analyst which says on average our products are about a third less expensive to implement in terms of time it takes and resources it takes. So that's a big part of what you do. In many cases, it's a multiple of your first year investment in the product itself. Support burdens, configuration before customization. That's an important point. Customization is great, but it costs money and it takes time. To what extent can you get what you need by just configuring the product itself or by adding simple extensions to it? That's another way of generating value and reducing your costs over the life cycle of the product. Lastly, usability. We talked earlier about adoption. I was talking to some people outside the room about adoption and how that's always a challenge, especially for salespeople, to adopt software because it's not simple enough. It seems more like a measurement tool for the management rather than a tool of enablement for them, right? So creating these user interfaces and paradigms that make it simpler for customers to use. Finally, the service ecosystem. That's the last aspect of value, which is everything outside what we do. Our partners, our tools that you can acquire in the marketplace. Now you can see AI agents. We talked about AI agents. Soon we'll see those on the marketplace. The knowledge base, the events that we create like this. There's Zoho as a Zoho community. We have a whole section at the Expo Hall. That's another way of creating events across the world for you to meet with each other, learn from each other. So that's part of that value too, how you benefit from the ecosystem beyond just the vendor. So I'm going to close with this and just summarize. So what is it that we do to, now that we've anticipated what we think you are and your issues are, how do we approach it? 3 things. The sophistication that we want to bring to our products, talked about that, leading with the platform. We want to be easier to do business with. That's a very behavioral issue. It's not a technological issue. It's a behavioral issue. We want to be approachable. We want to be honest. We want to feel culpable at times or be honest about what we can do and can't do. And of course, not last, but definitely not the least, a maniacal focus on value. So I know that this is what we intend to do. Sometimes we fall short. And sometimes we might miscalculate where we shot the arrow and it lands somewhere else. But the purpose of my presentation here was to give you a sense of how our compass is set and where it's headed. Thank you.